into your journey in the legal profession, could you tell my students some of the options which are available to them? Because just as I said, they are not very sure what they will do after they leave the portals of this great institution. So what are the career options which are available to them?
Thank you for the question. So, I think something would be done through the various paths that the three of us have taken. So one is litigation. I think that should be obvious to all of you. That's the path that I took when I graduated immediately after college. Litigation is not easy. It can take many, many years for you to establish yourself and to build a successful practice. But it is definitely worthwhile and it is definitely very, very enjoyable. It keeps you in touch with a lot that happens in the world, in the country, in your locality. And it is also increasingly I guess as you gradually glass ceilings break, it is increasingly more accessible to people from all backgrounds. So what I'd say would be litigation. That is obvious. The other, similarly, I guess, in Bombay, is corporate style advisory work and consulting work. So I did intern in my college with these Indian partners. I enjoyed that internship, but I like litigation more. So I was sure that I wanted to litigate and go on this world. Anshu can perhaps speak more about his experience working in a firm and his current job as well. So I'll name the corporate options for Anshu to also explain a little bit more. So that's the other option. A third is, of course, to go into academia. So for that, you probably want to study further. If reading, writing, thinking engages you, attracts you, then I would very highly recommend this field as well. It is highly enriching. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time studying for my master's and continue to enjoy being in the university and teaching students. That's a very, very fulfilling experience. And that is something that you should all seriously consider. That's not considered enough, I think, by students usually in law schools. If you want to pursue academia, then you probably want to study further. For that, you will then probably want to consider doing degreeships and RAships with your professors. Also consider doing engagement in writing. So do dabble into writing projects and consider expanding on your existing college projects, etc., into something more publishable. I would strongly suggest you do that. Another kind of field that is increasingly more opening up is think tanks and sort of research organizations. They do require a lot of lawyers from all fields. For example, Project 39A engages lawyers not just for litigation, the position that I was in. In addition to litigation, you have academics who do research on the death penalty, the criminal justice system, and other issues. There are researchers who also work on anthropological issues and things like that. So this is just one project in the National University Delhi. Similarly, there's another project or center called the Center for Communication Governance, CCG, in New Delhi. They also hire lawyers for a whole range of research work related to technology and laws and regulation and things like that. You should definitely check out their website to see if they have opportunities. There are several other think tanks such as I think the Delhi Center for Law in Delhi. They have lawyers. There is another organization called Daksh in Bangalore. They have lawyers. There's CLPR in Bangalore. They have positions frequently. So in addition to the binary that we have in our head about litigation or copyright or whatever, there are more of these options available that you can explore. Immediately after law school, there is also an interesting kind of eliminate days of being a judicial clerk to either a Supreme Court judge or to High Court judges. And I would strongly recommend all of you to sort of consider that as well. That also acts as a stepping stone to any of these pathways. Right? So if you, for example, work with a Supreme Court judge for a year or 2 years, that can only improve your profile and only improve your knowledge, understanding, and your insight about what you want to do. So if you're still confused about what is it that you want to pursue, then I would strongly suggest you pursue a clerkship with either the Supreme Court or a High Court judge. While you're students, you can intern with Supreme Court or High Court judges. That way, you can hope to get a sense of what a clerkship entails. Am I missing anything? Or is that? No, if something else comes to me, I'll come back to you, but I hope this answers at least some of the questions that were asked.
Thank you, Professor Himanshu. Thank you.
And thank you so much to Dr. Chandiramani and Professor Shambhavi for the invite to speak here to the students, and I'm very glad for this opportunity. So without wasting a lot of time, I'll probably just get into how I began studying law and how it's not necessary at this stage for you to have a very clear plan or a very clear idea of what you are going to do right after law school. But I hope that through my experiences I'll be able to guide you towards the different options that exist for you while you are students of law, and the multiple options that may be available once you graduate. So for me, I'll be very frank, studying law was almost a matter of chance, and after my 12 board exams, I was unsure of what to do after school and was looking for career options other than engineering or medicine. And it was then that a friend suggested writing the CLAT and other law entrance exams, and I happened to clear the test for NLU Odisha. And I am from Odisha. I grew up in Bhubaneswar. So the National Law University, which had just opened that year, it seemed like an obvious choice for me because it was very close to home. And to be very honest, I did not have a very clear idea of what law school had in store for me. So I kind of took a plunge in the dark, and I'm grateful that it worked in my favor. So one thing that I completely agree with Himanshu on is that while studying law, that is your greatest time for experimentation, to do as many different things as possible. And every time students ask me what they should do while they are studying law, then I always tell them that they should do as many varied internships as possible, and to get a flavor of everything, like all different sectors, to be able to figure out what you really like. And this is something that I tell my students at the National Law School in Bangalore, or even my juniors who sometimes talk to me about these different options from NLU Odisha. I believe that being a student gives you ample room and opportunity for experimentation. But unfortunately, at most law schools, I see students either not interning at all or interning at very similar places. Now that may be, interning at very similar places might be an option for someone who is very clear about what they are going to do right after the law school. So for example, if you are very sure that you are going to litigate, then it makes sense to do litigation internships and to familiarize yourself with different courts. Or if you know that you want a corporate law job, it makes sense to intern at corporate law firms or corporate offices. But for people who are still not sure, and I say this because when I was a law student, I wasn't very sure. I think interning at different kinds of places, at varied places, that gives you a flavor of what you may actually end up liking, what you may actually end up doing. So that is one piece of advice that I have for students who are currently studying law. Now the question is, how do you intern? How do you apply for internships? Now the work for that has to start very early on, in the sense that if you want to intern in June, then you should start applying by January or February to different places, because your competition are peers from other law schools who know that they have a summer holiday in June or a midterm break in October, so they will be using their entire term time to apply for internships. So you have to think 3 months, 4 months in advance and start looking at organizations who might be willing to hire, who may have openings, and then writing to them, draw up a cover letter, design a CV in a professional manner, and make sure that you send it out to prospective employers and places that where you might seek internships. And I'll be very honest, if you send out 25 emails, and if you're really lucky, then you'll receive replies only from about 5 different places. And that is also the best case scenario. So it is going to be a challenging process. It is going to be a daunting process. And it was the same for all of us. But don't get disheartened by that. Keep at it. And then you might end up getting an internship that you really like, that really guides you on what you might want to do in your career. And like Professor Himanshu rightly said, take advantage of the fact that you are in Mumbai, that you are so close to the Bombay High Court, that you are so close to the commercial capital of the country. That I wanted to speak to you about is doing an LLM, having a career in law. Talk about that. And this is for those of you who are interested in studying further, who may be wanting to do an LLM or looking for scholarships. And then maybe teaching or not teaching, that really is up to you. But for those of you who want to do an LLM, I think it's important to think and ask yourself, why is it that you want to do an LLM? What do you expect to get out of it? So for me, I think the biggest motivation behind doing an LLM was the fact that I enjoyed being in academic environments. And this was something I discovered pretty early on when I was in NLU, Odisha, and I'm very grateful to my professors for that. So I look forward to preparing for classes. I was mostly diligent on that front. And the reason I was able to do that was because I felt that my classes were transformative in many respects. So the stuff that I read and I learned, it had a big role to play in the choices that I have made in life so far. And the only way I could sustain that interest in academic environments seemed to be through a master's degree. And that is why some other career options, particularly those in private law, they did not appeal to me much. But having said that, I should also give a disclaimer that I did work in a telecom multinational company for 1 year after graduating. So this was my first job, and it was based out of Bhubaneswar in Odisha. So that is where I realized that even things like having good grades, having a good rank in class, they can sometimes be overshadowed by social realities. So Himanshu was mentioning barriers, and I think despite coming from one of the higher ranks in my university, at that interview, at the final stage of the interview, my employer had asked me if, being a woman, I could handle the travel to remote parts of Odisha that this job entailed. And I remember being quite offended at that time. Because I thought, what kind of a question is that? You've selected me to the final round. Why would you ask me this question? So in hindsight, I feel a little overconfidently, I said, yes, of course, I will be able to handle it. And these questions of gender, they are not things we should be discussing in 2014. I graduated in 2014. And I think I was able to deliver on that front. And the reason I was able to deliver is because I felt I had a point to prove that someone had already questioned whether I would be good enough. And the way I perform is going to have an impact on those other women that the company is going to hire. And I feel I was able to deliver, but that motivation has to be there. That even though people may question my abilities, even though people may not believe in my CV for what it stands, I will work hard and I will try to prove myself. So Himanshu is right when he says that no barrier is completely impossible to overcome. They will be there. These are social realities of the society that we live in, but of course we can overcome them.
We are glad that Professor Mr. Anshu Raj Singh sir is being physically present among us. So I request our principal Dr. Nilima Chandiramani ma'am to felicitate Mr. Anshu Raj Singh sir with a token of love and respect. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all for having me here. Thank you, Professor Amit. So, you heard two academics. I'm not an academic. I am a lawyer. I'm still working as a lawyer. So, I share my journey, and most of my experience has been of failure. If I started something, I failed. I moved to something else. I failed or did not like it. So, I'm changing sectors. And I hope through my experiences, you will also learn that maybe, should I do this or should I not do this? So I'm an accidental lawyer, like what Preeti mentioned, and I think Himanshu also. I wanted to join National Defence Academy. I gave the exam, I passed the written exam, then I was told that I'm medically unfit for the exam. My knees touched, so I cannot go through that. So I didn't have a career option, and I'm from Bihar. So there most people go to engineering colleges, and like what Preeti said, I didn't want to be an engineer. So I went to Delhi University to do graduation, and there someone mentioned that give CLAT, you argue a lot, so you can be a decent lawyer. So I gave CLAT, I got through, I got 2 or 3 law schools I got, and so I thought that Patna being my hometown, I can go to CNLU and just pursue law. There, I had no clue what I'm doing. So I had a very good teacher who taught IPC, and he was just a teacher, he didn't have any research articles, nothing, he had not even passed UGC NET examination. But the way he taught, I got interested in criminal law. So then I thought I'll practice criminal law and I will be a litigator. So I went to the sessions school to intern, and there I realized I had no clue what's happening. What was being taught in law school and what happens in the court is completely different. So I panicked. Then I thought that I will become a teacher for underprivileged students. So I applied for this fellowship called Teach for India, where you go to these schools where underprivileged children are there and you interact with teachers and teach English and all. So they selected me and they made an offer. I signed up with them. During that time, I was interning with this NGO called Human Rights Law Network. It's a Delhi-based NGO which does. Should I speak? Yeah. So this NGO is the head of the NGO is this lawyer named Mr. Colin Gonzalez. He's quite famous, infamous, depending on your political ideology, but he does some good work. So the executive director of that company was a Mumbai-based lawyer. He really liked what I was doing, so he chased me. He said that you can teach students and maybe you will make a difference, but why don't you come and work with us? And the work you will do you will like the work. You will feel that you are changing the lives of way more people. So I thought, okay, why not to give it a try? So I started in Bombay High Court, and you know about the Coast Road project. It's quite famous. It's coming up next year. So I had worked against the environmental clearances, which the contractors had not got the clearances and they started building the roads. So we went with the Fisher folk and found what they want and pushed back against in the High Court, and some clearances were changed and all. So I did that work. I thought that working with the NGO, I will find litigation a lot engaging and I will survive in that. But 3 years down the line, I realized that I was only getting pro bono work. And some of you who are not coming from, litigating families where you have grandfathers or great-grandfathers as lawyers, that how difficult it is to survive. So I didn't have any briefs 3 years down the line. Only clients who came to me wanted free lawyering. So basically no one wanted to pay this, sir, help kar do please. So I tried helping, but after a point I realized I don't have money to survive. I had education loan to pay, so I was like, okay, let's move to Delhi now. So I applied, and then I ended up with Himanshu and Preeti, working with that project 39A. This was again a pro bono work, but we were paid by the National University for doing that work. Very interesting work. We were doing research, we were representing people sentenced to death. 3 years there, again, I learned a lot, but I realized that my career is not going anywhere. I'm stuck. I don't have any briefs. So what should I do? Then luckily both Himanshu and Preeti said, why don't you pursue LLM? And just with a confession, I always wanted to pursue LLM. In college, I wanted to be an academic. I am the only one of the three who is not an academic, so I am a failure that way again. But Himanshu said that give it a shot, it's not late. So I applied to a couple of law schools. I got accepted. I got some scholarship also. So I went and completed the LLM. And there I realized while pursuing LLM that I don't like doing research. And if I want to be a good academic, I need law. So I came back and now I started applying to law firms. So one law firm accepted me, American Degree Works, So then I went to a law firm called BTG, the Employment and Commercial Contracting Practice. It was again a very good learning experience. Money is good in law firms, most of you will know. There again the problem came. I realized I cannot build clients. If you want to survive in a law firm and progress, you need to build your own clientele. Otherwise, you cannot ever become a partner. So then again, there is a problem. What should I do? So now the last option was corporate, working in a company, because in the company you can do advisory, but you don't need to build a clientele. So then I started applying for in-house roles, and I was accepted, and now I'm working in Lodha Ventures, which work requires advising companies on what issues they face, and here you don't need to build clientele. So I think I'll survive here for some time. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully in 6-7 months or a year again I'll tell you what new thing I'm trying. So this has been my journey. Basically, exploring different fields, and this has been the thing which both Himanshu and Preeti mentioned. And this is for me also. I come from a very first generation lawyer I am. I didn't have much financial support. I studied through education loan, and most of the time I was scared. What will come next? How will I pay my bills? So there was a thought process that should have for government job and maybe become a judge or something like that. But if you ask me now that if I go back to law school and will I choose the same journey, I will choose the same journey. It is basically, trying, exploring and finding what works for you. They both spoke about how litigation works, how academics work. I'll tell you basically how you want to survive in law firm and corporate works. If you are not able to do internships in college, in the corporate sector, no one will hire you. The only way you can enter a company as a in-house lawyer or in law firms is by interning with them. You start from first year, second year, third years, whenever you get a chance, you intern with them, then only you will be hired. Otherwise, it's really difficult because you don't have any experience. Whatever you study in law school is generally useless. You know the basic principles, but how it works, no one teaches you. Like a professor will teach you contract lawyer, but if I ask you that draft a commercial contract, where two companies will define their dealings, say some procurement is happening and what will happen if the shipping doesn't reach because of some terrorist attack, it will be difficult for you to put it there in a contract. So the internship teaches you that. So what Preeti was mentioning, start interning as much as possible from your law school. Again, it's easier said than done. Mostly the hiring is through contacts. If you don't have contacts, generally if you apply, no one will hire you. But say if you start from first year, say you work with a lawyer in say Thane Sessions Court or even in Ulhasnagar, I don't know if there is a court here. If you intern here and next time you apply to someone, you can pitch that, okay, I learned something here and I can apply this learning, so please hire me, I will be helpful. That way you can be hired at the next stage. That is the only way to progress. I made this mistake in college. I did not apply. The only internships I did was I kept going to lawyers or to human rights firm or National Human Rights Commission. So when I am trying to apply in corporate setups, they ask this question that why now? Why are you coming to us now and why are you changing sectors? So it's difficult to justify. But if I had those internships in college, it would be easy. So internships is the one way to go about it. Second is also, the mistake I made is I liked some subjects. Like I mentioned, I like this professor in college who taught criminal law quite well. So I was like, I'll just study criminal law. I liked IPC, I topped IPC. I liked CRPC, I topped CRPC. I liked jurisprudence. I did not like civil law, so I failed civil. I failed CPC, and next time I was told that if you don't pass and repeat, you will throw out of college. So I somehow passed CPC. I did not like corporate laws, so I did not study corporate law. And now I am studying corporate law. So basically, while taking a train back from home to home, I study company law in the train because I am doing that work. So I'm regretting what mistake I made in college. So whatever, you like a subject, please focus on it, but also study other subjects because that basic principles are going to help you, and you don't know what you will do in future. You may after 8 years like me think that okay, law firms don't work, academics don't work, litigation doesn't work, so I want to work with a venture capital fund and I don't know what SEBI regulations are or what corporate laws are. So that may become an issue. So study all subjects, try for internship and keep your mind open. So that may work for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us when I say your talk was both educational and profoundly inspiring. Once again, thank you, sir, for joining today's session. Now let's transition into the interactive phase of today's seminar. Your queries are the key to unlocking deeper insights into this legal profession. The volunteers will pass on the mic amongst the audience.
Question is that what is the eligibility to get into Harvard or Oxford universities?
Besides that, there are no formal eligibility criteria. What they do ask for in the application is a statement of purpose, which is like a personal statement where you write about your journey, where you write about things you have achieved and why you want to do an LLM. So this is the Harvard application. And in addition to that statement of purpose, there is also a legal essay that is required. So both have to be together of around 1500 words. This is the main part of the application. The other thing that they require are 3 different recommendation letters. So if you have significant work experience, you can give recommendation letters from your employers or places where you have interned at. Otherwise, you are required to give recommendation letters from your professors or from your principal at your college. Whoever you think knows you closely, has seen your work and can vouch for your credentials. If your entire education has not been in English, you might be required to write the TOEFL exam, which is the test of English as a foreign language exam. It's not a very difficult exam, and there is preparatory material that is available. Usually you have to enroll in advance and go to the test center. It is an online exam and it takes place at a test center. So these are the main things that you need to keep in mind. Now, if your question is how do you make your CV strong enough for getting into Harvard or getting into Oxford, then there are a few things to keep in mind. Like I've already said, good grades are always a plus. But if you don't have great grades, then don't panic. At least in the US, universities don't look at grades as make or break. In the UK, like Oxford, Cambridge, these are a little more grades focused than the US. That has been my experience. If you've done interesting moot courts or different competitions, if you've basically been active during your law school life. Now that is one thing. Then there is the question of, so this is Harvard. Oxford, again, very similar process, but the application essay does not require a legal essay, not for the degree that I went for, MSc in criminology. If you want to do BCL, which is their equivalent of LLM, I think they do require a legal essay. And again, same number of reference letters and TOEFL or IELTS, whichever English exam. So now financial barriers can be a big problem if you decide to pursue a master's degree in the US or the UK. And So the scholarship that I had got for the US was Fulbright, for which you need 3 years of work experience, and for Chidney in the UK you need 2 years of work experience. So these are some of the scholarships that you can think about after working for a bit. If you want to apply straight out of law school, then UK has the Felix scholarship, which is applicable at Oxford, at SOAS, and at Reading. US, it does not have any specific scholarships for freshers, but Harvard, if they accept you, then they agree to, like based on financial need, they will give you some part of the grant, either as a full grant or combined with a loan. So these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind. And Himanshu, if you have anything to add that I may have missed out, then I think, yeah, that might be helpful.
I treated it what Preeti said. If you don't have good trade traits, then you might want to supplement your CV with publications, internships. You have to demonstrate how you've been engaged in college and what work you've done before. Work ex can be almost an eligibility requirement in some colleges. So I think Columbia Law School requires you to have done work. Which is not necessarily the case for colleges in the UK. So I think in US colleges prefer some work ex before you apply. And I think you should also consider going a little wider in the sense, not just Oxford and Harvard, there are other universities that offer very interesting courses, and the choice of your university will also depend on your career path that you envisage. So they could be, I think Stanford, for example, has an environment program. There are universities in Europe, universities in Australia that are doing Melbourne University, for example. They have a fully funded scholarship for Indians. So that is something you could consider as well. There's the Central European University, that's also an interesting option. There's not a great university that Anshu went to. They have a fully funded scholarship. In the US, one of the very, very few fully funded scholarships in the US. So that's another great option if you want to do human rights work. In terms of eligibility, yes, I mean, like I said, I failed a year in college, and I still was admitted to Harvard Law School. So it's possible to build in your CV. It's never too late. Yeah.
I just have one more thing to add, which I just recalled. It is that for those of you who are very sure that you want to do an LLM and you want to do it from outside India, a judicial clerkship may be a good way of securing an acceptance for an LLM, particularly in the US, because judicial clerkships in the US are very hard to get and very, very reputed. So for students who have done judicial clerkships in India, they stand a greater chance, even though it may just be 1 year of clerkship, they stand a very good chance of getting an acceptance for an LLM from top law schools across the world. When I was at Harvard, we were around 11 Indians, and out of that, 4 or 5 were former clerks of Supreme Court judges. So, and I'm sure that must have been Himanshu's experience as well. So that is almost like a short way of getting an acceptance. If you, in the sense if you have a recommendation from a Supreme Court lawyer and you have other good things on your CV, then it is, then you stand a very strong chance of getting an acceptance for an LLM, and this may be at the Supreme Court or one of the high courts, provided you work well and you're able to get a letter of recommendation from a judge. So that is another thing to keep in mind.
Thank you. We are waiting more questions. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, to enter into corporate, what are the necessary skills apart from that communication and basic skills, so that candidate should have a more standalone opportunity to get into corporate? Like someone who doesn't have a lot of contacts or not more social,
So what can help them to get into that?
Anshu as to what do you do to get into the corporate side of things. So he's trying to answer the question more.
See, what I have realized, at least in our profession, in fact, for LLMs also and for all the things you do, you have to be sellable. We all are, lawyers are commodities which are sold in the market. So if you are not sellable, no one is going to buy you. And you become sellable when you have a pitch to make. A pitch can be, see, you write an article. Now, when you send out your resume, how do you tell the recruiter that I have something to offer? Say, you want to work in a setup. Now, corporate has a wide variety of work. Like what work I do now, I work in a venture capital firm, which is a group company, and I manage the litigation of the company. I also look and review their contracts, and there are different varieties of contracts. I also work on some kind of mergers and acquisitions. I assist the lawyer who specializes in that. And there is also investment. We invest in different companies. So this is the kind of work here. There is real estate work which you do in some companies. There are companies which are consumer facing. So what area you want to work in? Basically, there are some corporate laws which you should be very familiar with, like company law. SEBI regulations you should read. You should understand banking and finance laws, which they teach in college. Even if they don't teach in college, you should know cyber laws. Say data protection is an upcoming field in that you need to have some specialization. So one is, you need to be clear about your subjects. Second is internship. Now, I understand that getting internship in, say, Microsoft or Google is next to impossible for most of us. I cannot get in now also if I apply for internship for sure. So, but say, and what both Preeti and Himanshu mentioned, you are in Mumbai. So I was in Patna. When I had to apply for an internship, I had to go to Delhi. So I had to see that can my parents give me money to go and stay in Delhi? Where do I stay in Delhi? Which lawyer I go to? But say in Mumbai, you find a lawyer, not a big shot lawyer, not a senior lawyer. There are lots of lawyers who do small work for companies. You work and intern with them. When you intern with them, you know how the work happens. You also build contacts. I understand you don't have parental contact, but your own contacts. Plus, you can do. There are lots of online courses now, free and paid courses also in different corporate laws, data protection and all. Do those courses. So basically, you put them on your CV. You do some internships, and once you graduate, start wherever you can work. Start with a lawyer who pays little money also and understand financial issues are there, and keep applying to the companies. Go and drop your CV, talk to someone, say a client comes for some work and you do good work, so they will remember you. They can give you a reference, a recommendation, and through that you can have your foot in. Once you start and get in a company, then you will build contacts. But this is the only way, there is no other way. Or if you know someone whose father or grandfather can make a call, that's a different thing altogether. For most of us, this is the only way to go. You study corporate laws, you do some internship, you build contacts through the internships. Maybe do some extra courses and what that is also going to help.
Thank you, sir.
My question is that how one can fortify his mind and skills in order to become a formidable researcher, be it academic in nature or be it litigational in nature.
I think about first, I guess, it's a very broad question, but firstly I'd say read widely and read a lot. So reading firstly and cultivate a reading habit that in turn should generate more interest and more curiosity. So that's the first. If I understood you correctly, you're trying to figure out what skills can you pick up to be able to conduct research better, right? Now that then depends on what kind of research. That again would be a fairly wide range of things that you can do. But wherever you are beginning that process, so wherever you are in the writing journey, so if you're, I don't know, if you're in your second year or something, and you want, then you can, let's say, take a subject that you were interested in, maybe take a college project that was that as a part of your internals, perhaps that you had, and then work on it, develop it further, develop it enough to then publish it somewhere. Then if you submit it for publication, then there will be a review process and they will give you feedback on what works, what did not work, etc. And that in turn could also help you refine your writing skills. A resource I would recommend is Brian Garner. He's a scholar. He has a book called, I think, Legal Writing in Plain English, or Plain English Lawyers one of these. Brian Garner is the name. He used to be the actor of the Black's Law Dictionary. So his book is available, very commonly available now. I would strongly recommend that you pick it up. It will really help you with your writing process, with your thinking process even. And that's a book that covers a lot of ground in terms of academic as well as professional writing. So I would strongly recommend that book to anyone who's wanting to write. Yeah. Sure, Preeti.
One thing that I feel is also important is staying up to date with legal developments. I think that's pretty easy these days with so many hearings being live streamed, and then also Live Law and Bar and Bench, which very frequently update on what is happening. So if you want to know what is happening in the Supreme Court, what is happening in the Bombay High Court, then these are good places and you should know about what is going on. And the other thing is just reading widely about new legal developments. For example, my area of work is criminal law, and there is so much happening in the space of criminal law right now. The statutes are being revised, replaced, the Nyaya Sanhita that has been introduced, and the CRPC, IPC evidence, all of that is being replaced. And there is so much that is being written about, on different media platforms, newspapers, about this. So say what big voices in law have to say about that, and read diverse viewpoints to be able to form your own opinion. I think that's how you might be able to find your voice. Read widely, read op-eds of newspapers, for example. They can be good starting points. And then, of course, find out if you have a particular area of interest, find out what important journals nationally and internationally are in those fields, and then see what is being written there. The Indian Law Review, for example, or the Social Legal Review, or what are the different articles that are being written about, what do people have to say. Those are some of the ways in which you could keep yourself updated on things that are happening around you. And I'm sure there will be similar platforms for corporate law, intellectual property, and so on. So as a student, I used to read legal blogs very frequently. So those were just in the initial stages that time. Law and other things. For intellectual property, I remember reading Spicy IP very frequently. And, Shamnad Bashir would write very frequently on Spicy IP. So that was something that I would look forward to. Those are some of the things, that I can think of right now.
I'll add something to this. When I was preparing for a CLAT, they suggested that read the Hindu, the newspaper. It's quite, opinion pieces. Now that's very dry. If you have not started reading, you don't like reading, and all three of us like reading, and I don't like writing, they also like writing. So, but for people who don't like, so I found Hindu very dry, that political pieces, and initially you don't develop an interest. So the person I was consulting, he said that, why don't you start reading novels? If you read stories, easy you get connected to. So they recommended reading John Grisham's novels, and I started that, and it's fascinating, So reading those stories, suddenly you realize that, okay, these are the legal problems and how to resolve that. So you can consider that also. Read fiction, maybe that will help you to get an idea of. If you want to follow corporate laws and development, so most law firms and in fact corporate lawyers also publish articles online. There is this platform called Mondac. On that, lots of articles, small articles, not very good quality ones, but it will give you a basic idea of what is happening now, what the specific area is, and what changes are happening. So you can follow that blog and read whatever pieces are coming out. Whenever something changes in a specific field, all law firms publish them on that platform. So if you want to read something like, say, data protection law came, now you don't want to read research article on that, which is very complex, you can go on Mondac and just search that. you will find small pieces on explaining different provisions and what will change based on that. You can try that, that will also help you. But then that's not academic research. That is basically litigation or corporate-based research you can do. You can follow live law, bar and bench. All of us have mobile phones in which we follow Instagram. I don't want to sound like some really old person who is saying Instagram is bad, but you can also use that time and read live law, bar and bench. There are some other, SCC also publishes small articles. If you start reading, you will build a very good base. So if you are not in academics, but just litigating or doing corporate work, that will help you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now to make it particular with respect to litigation only, I came across books that are dedicated to research methodologies. So whether such books can prove to be a good weapon in a researcher's arsenal, and if yes, whether there is any such good book dedicated to research methodology from a litigation point of view.
Himanshu, do you want to speak? Should I? Okay, see, I did not follow any book. It's basically litigation. When I started, there was no time to read any specific book for research. You go, you read case laws, you start. Most of the research now is online using this is there, SCC online is there, then Manu Patra is there, you search on that. You can read research methodology books, but if you have time, if you get an opportunity, do a training. Manu Patra does a training for research, how you can look for case laws there. And most litigation work is finding case laws supporting your point or refuting other side's point. So basically that is required for case law research. You don't write, very well researched briefs. You write briefs where you support your point and push the essay. So I did not use any specific book. My research was basically going to a senior's chamber, he's saying find this, and I going and somehow through the night sitting and looking on Manu Patra or wherever what the answer is. So that is something I'm not very sure. Litigation at least. You don't need any specific research methodology. You need to basically start looking at these case law books and online platforms to find judgments. Read judgments, that will help you if you want to litigate. Himanshu, maybe you have some suggestions.
So, I agree that as well. If you're wanting to research and you make the habit of reading cases, learn to make cases quickly, learn to understand cases better. So for that, you might have certain books that might help you. I'm guessing you would have had a legal methods course, a subject in your private course. So the textbooks there would be very useful. Also, they will have sections on case law, how to read a case law, what is precedent, how to distinguish cases, things like that. So those are tools that I'm guessing have been taught to you. In terms of improving your ability to read cases, I think there isn't a shortcut there. You will have to, I think, learn to read cases, make the briefs, understand cases, make accurate briefs, and you'll take that process over and over to be able to be efficient at sort of consuming cases and understanding which parts of the cases can be used, etc. Right? Promoting, that is another activity that might sort of help you with this process. That's also sort of kind of similar to litigation. If you're certain that you want to litigate, then yeah, I would strongly encourage you to promote. That might as well help with this process, yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
So as you all heard, all of you speak about Project 39A. So can you enlighten us about what exactly is that project and what is the scope? How can we get into it?
All three of us worked there. Himanshu has worked the longest there. Preeti was the researcher there. I and Himanshu work in the litigation team. So I'll simply give a brief background of what it does and how it started. So Professor Anup Surendranath, he came back from Oxford and he realized that, so he started a death penalty project where they were doing research on people sentenced to death in various prisons in India and various places and what kind of legal representation they got. And they found through their research that mostly people who are poor, who are bad legal representation were sentenced to death. So then this project was started where researchers and lawyers were hired. Mostly people on the younger side who were willing to work for like less money, because of course a national university cannot give you corporate salaries. And what we did was we researched, we prepared briefs, we briefed senior counsel. So one thing which was ensured by Project 39 is we got to work with the best lawyers in the country. I don't know, maybe you had heard about Siddharth Luthra. So both Himanshu and I have briefed Siddharth Luthra for pro bono work, and he agreed to do that work. So that was the work. Currently also that's the work, and now it has been expanded into also mental health issues which people sentenced to death, or people who are on, who are sentenced to long prison imprisonment, they face. There is issue of forensics, like forensic, you would have heard about DNA evidence. Now how DNA evidence works. Is it proper? Is it foolproof? Generally you think, okay, DNA is there, so this person has done it. You will be surprised to know that even if someone's DNA is found, that person may not have done it. Say, I came here, I touched this table, and tomorrow some crime happens. Say 5 years later, they may find my DNA and say that Anshu, you did it, even if I was not here for the last 5 years. So that's the problem. So research on that is done. Some sentencing issues are also looked into. So now in India, say generally the idea is, okay, you did this, so you're sentenced to 7 years imprisonment, say for some offense. But no one looks into your background, like say what issues you faced as a child, what is your socio-economic background, why you committed the crime. Say you committed theft and you are sentenced to prison, but no one looks into the fact that maybe you are indebted, your son is hospitalized and you need money for the treatment. That is not taken into consideration. But legally you should do that. In developed societies that is done, so that research is being done, and 39A pushes that okay, your background, the mitigating circumstances is the word used for that, should be taken into consideration to sentence someone. So that's the overall generic nature of the work 39A does, basically connected to criminal law and research. How can you get in? What work you want to do depends on that. We work there as lawyers. They generally hire lawyers with at least 2 years of experience. If you have trial experience, you can apply. The process, I think, is you have to write an SOP. You have to then, if they like your SOP and CV, they will call you for an examination where they give you a brief. You have to go through the brief, prepare the points, and if the points are really well, they think that you know criminal law, then there will be an interview where they will see whether you like the work they do, and they will also see whether they like the work you do, and then you are hired. If you want to be a researcher, I think Preeti will be well suited to do. She was there, one of the best researchers who worked there. So I'll ask Preeti to guide you on that. One more point. If you want to intern there, they only take interns from 4th or 5th year of law school. You can apply. They all through the year they put out ads that internship is open. You can apply. Apply through their website. You will need to send a piece of writing on any specific topic of criminal law. I think it's 500 or 750 words. Your CV and your SOP, all three things need to go. If compared to other people who have applied there, your CV and your writing is good, they will ask you to come to Delhi and work with them. They give some stipend also, I think 10,000 rupees per month was the stipend when I was working there. On the research aspect.
So I mean, like Anshu rightly said, one way in which you can find out more about the project is interning there, and if you go to their website, which is Project 39A NLU Delhi, apply for the internship. You will see the process for applying there, and I think you need to apply 3 or 4 months in advance, like with most places. And that is one thing. As far as research is concerned, what does a legal researcher do, particularly for people who are outside the field of law? And so basically what we used to, in that project, what we did was we were looking at over 1,600 different judgments from trial courts across different states, and we were seeing whether these trial court cases where they were imposing the death penalty, where the trial court, the sessions court was imposing the death penalty, whether these were compliant with Supreme Court guidelines or not. Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab, the case, the Supreme Court judgment from 1980, which upheld the constitutionality of the death penalty, that gives guidelines for weighing aggravating and mitigating circumstances, considering the alternative option of life imprisonment, the question of reformation, These are some of the ways in which a sentencing court deciding between life imprisonment and the death penalty is supposed to factor in while while imposing the punishment. So that was the project that I was working on, and we began with trying to see whether there was compliance with Supreme Court guidelines, and then later on it became a much more critical project of evaluating whether these Supreme Court guidelines were themselves good enough or clear enough, specific enough to be able to be followed by lower court judges. And we found that the Bachchan Singh tried to make something in the form of guidelines and guide discretion, judicial discretion in a certain manner. That was not adhered to by the subsequent judgments of the Supreme Court. So Machi Singh, which came later, and a host of other judgments deviated significantly from Bachchan Singh. And as a result, trial courts also were conflicted in what is the precedent that they should follow. So we saw that conflicting precedents were cited, or extracts from some judgment which was not again in compliance with Bachchan Singh, that would be cited if the court wanted to impose the death penalty, and something else would be cited if the court did not want to impose the death penalty. And often factors like brutality of the crime and all of that were moot when the court decides to, in deciding whether the penalty should be imposed or not. And so these were some of the things. We did this research over a span of over 2 years, and then publishing the report took another 2 years. So it's a slow process. You build it brick by brick. But I think when you see the larger picture, it gives you a sense of satisfaction that, it gives you a sense of, oh, this is what has been happening. It feels like a completed jigsaw puzzle at the end of the day, and I think that for me is very satisfying. Where initially you're looking at these individual pieces which don't make sense, and then you put them all together, and then you get some clarity. It may not be everything, but it gives you some clarity. And that then became the foundation for my LLM research, for my LLM thesis, and it's something that I am interested in even now as I'm doing the PhD. So I think when it helps you focus on this very narrow aspect which speaks to a much broader problem within the criminal justice system or whatever other area that you decide to research on. So I think that is the value of research, and that is what I was doing at Project 39A. By and large, my work was focused on death penalty sentencing. But the research team at Project 39A has now diversified quite a bit, and they work on torture, they work on mental health in the criminal justice system. So these are all different things that you could look at if you decide to intern there. And if you want to find out more about the publications, then all of that is also available on their websites. It's on their website. It's all open source, so you can download it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
And the next one is also something called a Fair Trial Fellowship that happens in Maharashtra, in Pune and Nagpur. So you guys should definitely check that out. If you're from these areas, you can try interning at this with the fellows there. That would be another avenue for you to engage with. Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot Himanshu brought it up. So if you all want to work, litigate, you can try the Fair Trial Fellowships. They only take people who know and speak Marathi. They are from Maharashtra. You can apply to them, you can intern with them, and they will hire you also. They pay you for 2 years, stipend of I think 35 or 40,000 rupees is the stipend, and you will work exclusively in the trial courts. They will guide you also. There is a senior, they talk to senior lawyers and the advocates in the courts under whom you work, and you take up small cases, like say someone is accused of theft who is from other state and cannot get bail or cannot get a bailer. So you work for them. There is a social justice fellow also who goes to the family, finds the bailer and gets them released. State also supports the work. So 39A has a MOU with Maharashtra government. So it's not that you are doing something against the state and you are scared. Like you will see lots of NGOs are being threatened currently, and that's not the case. This is the project supported by Maharashtra government. So basically you will be helping people. You will get it on your CV. You will get paid and learn through that also. So you can apply for internship with them. Even if you don't get in Delhi, you may get in Nagpur or Pune. It's way more easy there.
can you please tell us about the government exams which we can apply?
Sorry. Can you please tell us about the government exams, like after the graduation, which we can apply? For example, MPS and UPS, and what is the process for it?
So one is quite famous is judicial service exams, JMFC, which is called. Now different states have different regulations, and you need to know the local language. In Maharashtra, if you speak Marathi, you don't need any experience. I think the maximum age limit is 25 for general category students, and for reservation there is 1 or 2 years of, I think they give this exemption. There are specific subjects which they ask. You can find the list on the website. Every year, once the exam is taken, it's 3-level examination. There is prelims, which is basically MCQ based. Then there is mains, which is subjective, and then there is interview. That is one. There are exams also for APOs, Assistant Prosecution Officers. Names are different in different and give these exams. Now, if you want to work with PSUs and PSBs, so like NISCL and all insurance companies are there, they come up with the exams, I think once or twice a year or every 2 or 3 years, depending on the vacancy. You have to apply. Basically, the ads come. There is a website called Law Octopus. You can follow it. On that, generally, the ads will come where this exam opening is there. You can give the exam. If you want to work with these PSUs, most of the PSUs take you through CLAT. So if you want to say work with ONGC or NHPC, these are government companies, give the CLAT exam. Depending on your CLAT score and CLAT rank, they call you for another round of group discussion and personal interviews. Some of these companies also take the direct exam, and through that you have to get in. But mostly it's through CLAT or an independent exam is there. For banks also, I think they take a separate exam mostly. The PO exam is there, that also through that they take for the law officers also. Railway, I think, requires 3 years of experience. So that's it. I think the government exams, generally that's it. Somebody has some idea.
So just to clarify, I think it's CLAT PG, right? It's not the UG CLAT. Just for clarification. Yeah.
Government exams, that's it. Basically, after you graduate, you can give most of the exams. There is always an age limit. Follow the Law Octopus page. Almost all the government exams for law students which come up, you will find an ad there. If you want to go for this military also takes, Indian Army takes through JAGLAT service. There is an age limit. I don't remember what the age limit now is, 23 or 25. You can appear for that exam also, but please check whether you want to do that or not, because it's not just a legal job. You will have to go through the whole training process, and if you get injured during the process, they simply release you without anything. So that is one problem.
Thank you.